right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It is Monday.
It is.
All right, today, a little bit long, so part 1 is the gifts of tongues and prophecy. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, starting at verse 1. Let love be your highest goal, but you should also desire the special abilities that the Spirit gives, especially the ability to prophesy. If you have the ability to speak in tongues, you will be talking only to God, since people won't be able to understand you. You will be speaking by the power of the Spirit, but it will all be mysterious. But anyone who prophesies strengthens others, encourages them, and comforts them. A person who speaks in tongues is strengthened personally, but one who speaks a word of prophecy strengthens the entire church. I wish you all could speak in tongues, but even more, I wish you all could prophesy, for prophecy is greater than speaking in tongues, unless someone interprets what they are saying so that the whole church will be strengthened. Dear brothers and sisters, if I should come to you speaking in an unknown language, how would that help you? But if I bring you a revelation or some special knowledge or a prophecy or teaching, that will be helpful. Even lifeless instruments like the flute or the harp must play the notes clearly, or no one will recognize the melody. And if the bugler doesn't sound a clear call, how will the soldiers know that they are being called to battle? It is time for you. It's the same for you. If you speak to people in words they don't understand, how will they know what you are saying? You might as well be talking into an empty space. There are many different languages in the world, and every language has meaning. But if I don't understand a language, I will be a foreigner to someone who speaks it, and the one who speaks it will be a foreigner to me. And the same is true for you. Since you are so eager to have special abilities the Spirit gives, seek those that will strengthen the whole church. Now the commentary. The ability to prophesy may involve predicting future events, but its main purpose is to communicate God's message to people, providing insight, warning, correction, and encouragement. The gift of speaking in tongues or unknown languages was a concern of the Corinthian church because the use of the gift had caused disorder in worship. Speaking in tongues is a legitimate gift of the Holy Spirit, but the Corinthian believers were using it as a sign of spiritual superiority rather than as means to spiritual unity. Spiritual gifts are beneficial only when they are properly used to help everyone in the church. We should not exercise them only to make ourselves feel good. Paul's words to the Corinthians about tongues and prophecy have much to say about our generation. Many Christians struggle with the discussion of tongues. Paul would clearly say that no one should put down those Christians who speak in tongues, and those who speak in tongues should not disparage those who do not. Paul makes several points about speaking in tongues. 1, it is a spiritual gift from God, 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 2. 2, it is a desirable gift even though it's not a requirement of faith, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, 28 through 31. And 3, it is less important than prophecy and teaching, 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 4. Believers need unity and love. The enemy is not each other, but the sinful world system, Satan, and our selfish sinful desires. But Paul would rather have another word for today. I wish you all could prophesy. Although Paul himself spoke in tongues, he stresses prophecy or preaching because it benefits the whole church. While speaking in tongues primarily benefits the speaker, Paul would encourage us to be so in tune with the Spirit that his messages of comfort, encouragement, and edification would be heard in our congregations today. Make sure your actions are encouraging and edifying. As musical instruments must clearly play each note in order for the music to be recognized. So Paul says words must be preached in the hearer's language in order to be helpful. Because there are many languages in the world, 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 10, people sometimes can't understand each other. It is the same with speaking in tongues. Although this gift is helpful to many people in private worship as well as in public worship with interpretation, Paul says that he would rather speak a few words that his hearers can understand than many that they cannot. 1 Corinthians 14, chapter 14, verse 19. Paul confronted the self-oriented use of the gift of tongues. Spiritual people must be careful not to pursue selfish development at the expense of broken, lost people. When we give too much attention to our own needs, ideas, and spiritual expression, we may push aside the Spirit's true desire and abandon those who need encouragement. Follow Paul's advice and make encouraging and edifying others the highest goal.
There are churches in the United States, and I'll even go so far as Kentucky, that will not allow you to join membership until you have publicly spoken in tongues, because they think that is the sign that you are actually a Christian and you're actually following
That
Christ.
you have the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
I am not discounting the fact that people have the gift of speaking in tongues. I am not saying it's a bad gift. I'm not saying it's a false gift. It's very real. God very much gives it. It's biblical that He gives us the talent, but it's also biblical He doesn't give everyone the talent of speaking in tongues. I personally disagree with that process of saying that you're not a follower of Christ unless you're speaking in tongues. I do not agree with that, but I just wanted to make it aware that there are people that do.
Yeah. Well, I think he made it clear it's more important that you speak in the hearer's language, whoever that hearer is.
Right.
Some words of encouragement or even discipline or anything like that would build up their faith and or correct them or encourage them, rather than prove to them about your Holy Spirit and speaking in a language they don't have no idea about what you're saying. And I agree with that. It's all well and good to speak in tongues, but when it was first done at Pentecost, they did that because there was the whole world was there. There's so many different languages, and so they were able. The Holy Spirit made them able to speak in their own language, so that the people around could hear it and carry it to wherever their home was.
Exactly.
We don't really have that issue here in America. Some parts we do, but I'm just saying here in our little local things, unless somebody from a foreign country shows up and you are able to speak to them in not native to you and native to their language, that's the point of it. In my mind, that's the point of it. The angels don't need to hear it.
Right.
They don't need to hear, the gospel of God. They're already there.
Right.
We need to hear it. I think that's the whole point. We have this. The Holy Spirit gave us this gift to certain people so that they can give it to other people and not necessarily talk to angels all the time. But anyway, that's just our opinion.
That's just our opinion, and neither one of us are discounting that God gives different gifts to different people.
No, it's definitely a gift. There's no doubt about it.
There are a multitude of talents and gifts, and not everyone gets the same thing.
No.
And that's how we combine together as a unit to serve Christ better.
Yep. Okay, hope everybody has a glorious day, and we'll talk to you later.